Day I'm hustling, 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 hustling,
It's your
hustling,
boy,
hustling,
Ski.
hustling, 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 hustling. Every
Welcome back to the Matrix. You're not just in the Matrix, you are the Matrix. How's it feel, Neil? Ha ha! What's going on, you guys? We have a banger daily market news and analysis. So without any further ado, today we have the FOMC meeting. One of the biggest FOMC meetings in history. All of the grand economists were calling out for 50-point basis rate hikes. They're going to do 50-point basis rate hikes. And I told you guys, show me the charts and I'll tell you the news. And then out of nowhere, out of the night, the bank started collapsing. Everything started pivoting. And here we are. There is a slight chance that they do 50%, not likely. The markets has priced in 25-point basis point rate hikes. And there's a chance that they do nothing. French Bulldog, what is up, bro? What's good, everyone? Up or down? Today is a volatile day. Ernesto, Andres, thank you for the roses, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
It's your boy, Ski. It's going to be a very, very, very volatile day. Typically on these days, guys, wrong footing happens. So it's almost like a juke move, like, whoa, whichever way you think it's going to go, it typically reverses at the end. So this is going to be a very, very, very volatile day. By the way, on TikTok, I think I fixed the audio issue where if you were listening with headphones, let me put some music on. You could only hear Bullish Bear. Thank you for the roses, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
So I should have fixed the audio. It should be good where you can hear me out of both ears now, as well as the music should be out of both ears. Hopefully the TikTok issue is fixed. YouTube, you guys are good. This is just the TikTok software. We love your informative videos. Thank you. Macho Man is so damn loud and I'm trying to watch you at work. Is Macho Man too loud? Hey, Captain Susan, I think you were here yesterday. Is the audio fixed now? I think you were the one that actually pointed it out to me. It should be fixed now. Are you in a trade right now? Absolutely not. It is not a good idea to trade the Fed. Not a good idea at all. So we got about 10 minutes until they come on, I believe. Music is slightly louder than me. Okay. So we broke the Fibonacci, right? You cannot claim anything is done until after the Fed meeting. That is for sure. So whatever's happening, like, it's not uncommon for it to get wrong-footed at all. So typically, sometimes these things just rise into the moment he's talking and then they crash. Sometimes they just crash until the moment he's talking and then they rise some more. It's a very volatile day, but you can't count anything until a few days after today. Honestly, structurally, this is a irrational day in the market. It's not a day to be perfect on audio now. Let's go. Hey, on TikTok, if you're listening with headphones, am I in both of your ears now? Can you play live JP Speaks? That is the plan. I got him up right here. He's not on right now. He's not going to be on for another 35 minutes. But when he comes on, I'm gonna play it over there. So, what do I think is going to happen? It's going to be a very volatile day. Wrong footing is to be implied. So typically it's like a fake out. Sometimes it'll rise until he speaks and then it crashes, and sometimes it'll crash until he speaks and then it pumps. Either way, not a good idea to I like your savages, they're the best. What is he trading? I'm not trading anything today. Yeah, breaking the ankle is just whoop. Do you think we'll see a sub 25K Bitcoin in the coming weeks? It wouldn't be weird for us to get rejected, where we're at and come back to 25,300. It would not be weird at all. Are you holding long-term crypto? I am. I will hold 20% of my crypto forever, even after taking life-changing profits. I'm anxious to see what's going to happen. It's a very volatile day. It's very hard to predict what's going to happen today. I just started live streaming, so you're not even behind. I started live streaming like 5 minutes ago. So basically right now, in about 30 minutes, Jerome Powell is going to be speaking. Today is a very volatile day. Right now what we're seeing is Bitcoin is rising into the meeting. 28,500, so it's hard to say what's going to happen. It's very, very volatile. It wouldn't be weird to get rejected, come back down to 25,300. Friday says, 50 please, I'm selfish. I doubt it, man. I highly doubt that we're getting a 50-point base. But the crazy part is, like, I made videos, show me the charts, and I'll tell you the news, and I made these videos, we're about to reverse. And everyone's like, oh, no way, macroeconomics, bro. They're going to do a 50-point basis hike. They're 50 points. It's going to crush the economy. And I'm like, all right, bro. And then sure enough, like out of nowhere, everything, all these narratives just come out of nowhere. When structure needs to reverse, things just tend to happen. Call it the Matrix God simulation. Call it, the script. Call it whatever you like. It doesn't matter. According to RSI on the daily, we should go down. Yeah, we're getting a little overheated. Not too bad, though. Like, this is on the high side, 76, but, like, it's been well higher. Like, it's been well in the 90s, so... like, it's been as high as 94. So it's high on the daily, but it's not crazy. It's not like, oh my God, for the love of God, you need to sell. 30 minutes, that's right. What's up with Fedland XRP? They're trying to do the CBDCs. That's always been the Oliver, my prediction is volatile day, wrong footing, people getting wrecked, liquidated, up and down. Typically, a day like today is like, it's not a good day to trade, guys. Because a lot of times what will happen is, like, we'll rise and liquidate all the bears, and then we'll crash and liquidate all the longs. Like, that will happen. Or the reverse. Like, it'll be, we'll crash, liquidate all the bulls, and then boom, take it all back, liquidate all the bears. Like, volatile day. Volatile day today. I'm biased towards getting rejected here at the 2.36, but it could take a few days to play out. Could take some time to feel out. Says, sorry, I wasn't around in the beginning. Where do you see the Bitcoin down? So right now, Bitcoin is kind of in the middle of the move. Today is a volatile day, and really you can't count today or tomorrow towards like what's going to happen. This is ultimately where I think we're going to go before May, but it wouldn't be weird to get rejected right here, come back to 25,000, and then have a continuation. That wouldn't be weird. Trevin, thank you for the follow, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
So Bitcoin is what we're talking about right now. At this, yes, right at this second. He says, are you from Cleveland, Ohio? You wear Browns gear sometimes. I'm from Ohio. I'm from Southern Ohio. I lived in Cleveland for a while. When I first started watching football, I lived in Parma. I've been all over the place. I've been all over the place. All over the world. Happy Ramadan, everybody. Today is the beginning of the fasting for me. Let's take a look at this real quick. The next 3 days are OMADs for me. If you want to hop on, you're more than welcome to. OMAD equals 1 meal a day. So I'll be doing that for the next 3 days, and then I'll be doing a 3-day fast on says why does it not allow me to send cash donations? The money symbol is not on the side of the bar. I thought you only needed 1K subs to unlock donations on YouTube. You need 1,000 subscribers and you need 4,000 hours of watch time. I do not have 4,000 hours of watch time. So if you guys are on TikTok and you want to help me get there, you can hop over to this live stream, same live stream on YouTube, and you can help me get there. But you won't be able to donate to me until I get to 4,000 hours of watch time. But I appreciate you, bro. I do have merchandise if you want to help support me. We got some XRP gear, all that stuff. But I appreciate your watch time. Been to New Zealand? I've never been to New Zealand, but I've heard great things. Interest rates going up there. How will it affect the markets? Today is going to be a very volatile day. Today is going to be very volatile. Wrong footings, liquidations up and down. Bulls and bears are going to get wrecked today. Hey man, sorry I've been tagging you. Hey, no, it's all good. Good on you, Ski. Today is one of the most important Fed meetings in history. Thank you for the roses, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
In reality, though, I told you guys this yesterday. They can raise the rates if they want to. They've already turned the money printer back on. They've already turned the money printer back on. Watching from the Netherlands. Let's go. Because they've already bailed out the banks. And they've already injected half of the liquidity that they took out over the last year. I'm feeling good. It's going to be a volatile day. It's not to be traded, in my opinion. Like, these days are to be not traded. According to CNN, this is what the market has priced in. I don't think it's official until 2:30 though. Let's refresh this and see. Nobody's live yet.
This is Yahoo Finance Live. Let's get right to the 3 things that you need to know to start off your.
That's not live. You little tricksters. What is this? Is this live?
The Fed also acts as a bank to other banks by clearing checks, making electronic payments, and providing the currency.
Alright, we'll check back in on that. Yeah, I don't think they're live just yet. Watching from Google. Oh, Georgia. Let's go. 25 basis points. Bitcoin is pumping right now. On the hour, Hex is the only loser on the hour. Bitcoin is up. Oh, it's actually down on the hour. I thought I just saw it at 25,000 or 28,800. 20,000. According to this chart, it's 28,800. Yeah, the real move will happen after Jerome Powell talks. That is 100% true. 1.12 to 1.1 seconds. Yeah, bro. Today is not a day to be trading, in my opinion. Very, very volatile today. I mean, if you like the gamble, he says I'm not trading. Hell no. Yeah, no, not a good idea. Opinions on XLM. I like XLM. Top 10. What's with Coinbase taking away from Algorand? They're probably just worried about this whole nonsense going on with SEC. Do you think it's going to rise? Crypto or the rates? So check it out, guys. Like, they can say that the interest rates have been risen. I bought one Bitcoin at 20,008. Thinking about selling. What do you think? You could dollar cost average, bro. You could take a little 10%. I wouldn't sell the whole thing, though. Especially being up almost 50%. Would you still invest in Algorand? Everything is at this stage of the market, in my opinion, guys. See this line right here? This is how all of 2023 is going to be. It was the opposite of this all of 2022. So it's just down and sideways. All of 2022 was just down and sideways. Like, we had some peaks, some, like, all this nonsense. But in reality, when you get down to brass tacks, this is what all of 2022 looked like. All of 2023 is going to look like this. So at any point in time that we have a dip in the market is going to be a steal, in my opinion. Because all of 2023 is going to look like this. Thank you for the football helmets, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Hello from Venezuela. What is up, Alejandro? What is up? What is up? What is up? What is up? Bitcoin 30K if news is good. 25 if it's bad. It's possible. Either one of those, to me, we could literally hit both of those today. That's how volatile today is going to be. We could literally go up to 30K, get rejected, and come back to 25K. What's good, fam? Eddie, thank you for the follow, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Very, very volatile day. Let's take a look. See, nothing yet. So check it out, guys. They can raise it. At this point, it's irrelevant. They could raise it by 100 basis points at this point. It's literally irrelevant. And I'll tell you why. Because all right, let's pretend that this is the US dollar. Okay, we have our obvious hole right here. But let's just pretend that this has an equal hole and they're covering it up. And we're floating on top of some oceans, right? So they can close it by 25 basis point, 25 basis point, 25 basis point, 50 basis point, whatever. But they backdoor already open up the money printer by bailing out the banks. So they can call it whatever that they like, but in reality, all of the money that they have sucked out of the market over the last year, they have already put half of it back in to the market in less than a week. By bailing these banks out. So they can say whatever they like, but they've already turned the money printer back on. The only difference is the 25 basis points versus 0 is just whether they're letting regular folks know that they've turned the money printer back on or not. So they've already turned it back on. It's just whether or not they're going to let regular folks know that they've turned it back on. That's really the only difference. What time is the news? It is in 20 minutes, 19 minutes. What time does it start? 20 minutes. Nothing yet. So that's really the only difference. Are they letting regular people know? Because they had a choice to make. They had a choice. They could either save the US dollar or they could save the banks. And they chose the banks. And so at this stage of the game, it's only devaluation or defaultation. Those are their options. They can default or they can devalue. Either way, US dollar is going to zero. Either one of those scenarios, the US dollar goes to zero. One is a more slow process and one is immediate. They can default on their loans or they can devalue the currency. Either way, they both end up at the same destination. Zero. 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 What time? EU time. I have no idea, bro. I just know it's going to come on in about 14 minutes. No. 16 minutes. I think the market has a price in also. I think they do as well. They had in 50 points priced in not too long ago. Because everyone was in my comments saying it was going to go, they were going to do 50 basis points. And I said, nope, structurally, this needs a reverse. Like, the basis points heights are irrelevant. This thing needed to reverse. Down here, everyone was in my comments saying, shit. Everyone was in my comments saying that, 50 basis points, like, this thing is going to go. I am going to be streaming it. That this thing, 50 basis points, the grand recession, economic turmoil, all this stuff. This is what they were saying in my comments. And I said, we need a reverse. Just join. What prediction for the market after it's announced? It's going to be very volatile all of today and tomorrow. Yeah, no, the banks are screwed right now. You're 100% correct. She says, believe it or not, we are not. Believe it or not, we're not out of the water with the banks. Yeah, no, the banks are screwed. If the big ones aren't safe, what in the world? What in the world do you think is going to happen to the little ones? $28.8 short activated. 5 Bitcoin short. Oh boy. Good luck, bro. I do not recommend anyone trade the Fed. It's not a good idea. Even like the most experienced traders, they don't trade the Fed. And if they do, it's very light. But you do you. Good luck. Last year, every time I have gone with public on trading the Fed, I'm always getting taken. Only one thumbs up. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. Spam it on TikTok. Hey man, how are you doing? I'm doing good, bro. Another day in the Matrix. See how volatile this is, guys? Like literally 5 minutes ago, Bitcoin was at 25,000 or 28,800, and now it's at 28,400. Like this is volatile. Not a good idea to trade the Fed. What coins are you holding forever? Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Quant, HBAR. to name a few. Those are ones for sure. All of them over decades. He says, I live for the thrill. Hey, bro, as long as you know what's up. What do you think of XLM ski? It's solid. Top 10. Top 10. Says, I live for the thrill. My man's living his best life. Let's see if something else is on yet. Alright, so Bloomberg is on. I don't want to watch them though. Looks like this is the only one. What are some of your crypto mistakes? The biggest L I had was probably Dash. I made a lot more mistakes in 2017 run, but I took all of those L's on the chin. Are you really fasting for 3 days? I am. Not right now. Today is an OMAD. 1 meal a day. So the next 3 days will be OMADs. 1 meal a day, 1 meal a day, 1 meal a day. And then on Saturday, it will be a 3-day fast. And then I'll do OMADs again for 5 days, I believe. And then it'll be a 5-day fast. And then I'll do another, I think it's 6 days. I have my calendar. 6 days of OMADs, 1 meal a day for 6 days. And then it will be a 10-day fast to cap it all off. The most I've ever done is 5 days, so it's going to be a challenge even for me. What do you think about Flux? I like Flux. Flux is one of my low market cap gems. I mine Flux, so I'm also biased towards Flux. Did you see the rainbow currency? Yeah, I did. That was an interesting video. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they've already turned the money printer back on. Whether they let regular folks know that they've done it or not, that's a different story. But they've already done it. 14 minutes and the volatility comes and goes. Gonna still drink Ghost? No Ghost. Only black coffee or tea, water. Yeah, so it's only gonna be black coffee, water, tea. That's it. No cream. How does the fast feel during and after? You feel mental clarity is good. The longest I've ever done is 5 days, and on 5 days you start to I don't know. You start to emotionally, all this other stuff. Tora, thank you for the sneakers, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Do you like Jasmine? I don't hold any, but you guys make me want to hold it. ICP 25 was announced. So, in reality, this is how I became a savage, you guys. Just being honest with you. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but this is what I'm doing. Like, you can't run away from any of your own issues. Like, if you want to master the money game, I guess it's over here for you guys. If you guys want to master this, you got to master this. What do you think, bro? Pump and dump? Yeah, like today's gonna be really volatile. Thank you for the sneakers, you savage.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
With the cost of energy, yeah, it's not really that profitable right now, but I'm in it for the long term. I assume you're referring to flux mining. I'm fasting for a whole month because of Ramadan started today. Let's go, Matt. Me too. I'll be doing OMADs, a 3-day fast, a 5-day fast, and a 10-day fast. Hey, if you're thinking about it, there's a reason you're thinking about it. I'm not trying to convince anybody to do anything. All I'm saying is, just like when Bitcoin was down here at 19K and I was emotional support, if you want to challenge yourself, I will too be emotional support for you. I live really close to Parma, Ohio. I live in Tennessee now, but I grew up in Southern Ohio. I lived in Parma. I went to Normandy my sophomore year. Would you sell Bitcoin now or wait? It wouldn't be weird for us to get rejected, but I'm gonna start selling about 31K. He says, I did it 7 days. On day 3, I was on another level of happiness. Yeah, it's like it brings such a peace to your aura. Not to mention like the physical benefits, like you start using your energy to heal your body, heal your gut, heal your mind, heal your soul even. Would you buy coins like Doge or stay? At this stage of the market, I'm focusing on my top 10. My thesis on the market is we're going to retrace some eventually, like the full move is going to be 35K as high as 50K, and then we're going to crash back down in October. During October is when I'm going to buy more speculative stuff like Doge. David says, I was raised in Southern Ohio as well. Nice. Probably know where I'm from. You think good XRP retracement today? Dude, today, like, you can flip a coin. You can know all the structure in the world, but today is a volatile day. Is all your content free? 99% of it's free. I have Patreon stuff. I have paid versions. XRP to 72 cents. That'd be dope. I was raised in Milford, Ohio. I know where that's at. What do you think will crash in October? 25K? That would be like if I had to pick a number, but realistically, we could even double bottom. We could go as low as 16K, and it could be as high as 30K. I know that's a huge range, but he says I'm in Ohio. You think we'll see a mini run on alts when if Bitcoin starts to retrace? Yes. Towards the end of the retracement, the Bitcoin dominance is going to lose steam. Right now it's at 46.7%. When this thing starts getting in the mid 30s, we're going to start seeing an alt run. And that's also an indicator that the end of the run, the end of the retracement is near. Sup, Ski? Hope you're good. All is well. So I'm from Louisville, live in New Orleans now. Can you talk about EOS today? Sure, bro. I did it last time. I think it's $78 at the parabolic level. I think you missed it, bro. Yeah, $78 is the parabolic level. Top 10 alts. Ethereum, XRP, Hex, Quant, HBAR, Matic, Gala. You could throw in like Sauce for a micro, Dent for a micro, and Flux biasly. Litecoin. We'll do all the coins after the meeting. For XRP to go to $100, the market cap will have to be 10 trillion. That's why I don't think it's gonna happen, brother. That's why my price target's like $5 to $11. Gala, gala, gala. So I think we got 3 minutes till the meeting. 3 minutes. Let me check another. Let me give this a nice little refresh. Make sure no one else is live. So we got the Wall Street Post is live right now. Cool. Some fibs on Gala. It's $2 to $3. Dude, today is a volatile day. People get wrong-footed up and down on days like today. Since I've been live, Bitcoin's been as high as 28.9 and as low as 28.3. And I've only been live for 42 minutes. How long you been in crypto? I've been in crypto since 2014. I've been heavy into crypto since 2017. I've been obsessed with crypto since 2019. Says $5 is good enough for me. Sick of living paycheck to paycheck. Think it in your mind, brother. Believe it in your heart and it will become your reality. We got this. We're going to make it through the slumps together, y'all. Thoughts on Link? I forgot about Link. Link's the top 10 for me. And VeChain. My top 10 consists of 13 coins. Pretty much, bro. Not for the right reasons. He says you started right after high school. Yeah, that's right. I was 19. But not really like, I had no idea what the hell it was. I just had some. Thoughts on LCX? LCX is solid. Arbitrum is solid. Destin says, thanks for the no FUD crypto insight. 100% the best out there. Thank you. Let's go. I try not to be like I know like people do like fear mongering or like moon bag mongering. I try not to do either one of those. Alright, so it is now about that time. Thoughts on Phantom? R and Render, solid. Both are solid. How did you do during the 2021 bull run? I did really well. I turned my bull run into the biggest mining farm in the city that I live in.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. I don't want to say I exited at the top, but I exited most of my crypto near the top. I have video evidence. Exit points at 3,800 and 4,200 were my main range for Ethereum, and I exited most of my Bitcoin around 50,000. What are some moon bags I can research? Sauce, Flux, Ergo, Dent. Those are some low market caps. Nick says, someone said you either make money in crypto or you learn something. That's it, man. Like, well, that's like life. There's no failures, only lessons. Only lessons. And that's how you gotta look at it. All your failures. You gotta look at it like, what? It says Ergo. Yeah, I like Ergo. What was the lesson here? And take your L's on the chin. Take 100% responsibility for all your L's. That's how you learn from them, so you don't make the same mistakes. I mostly did USDC. However, I don't like that as much anymore. I still think it's probably fine, but I'm definitely diversifying more than I used to. Tether, DAO, USDC, and just US dollar. Thoughts on XDC? XDC is solid. Alright, let's get it, y'all. Pause my music.
Good afternoon. Before discussing today's meeting, let me briefly address recent developments in the banking sector. In the past 2 weeks, serious difficulties at a small number of banks have emerged. History has shown that isolated banking problems, if left unaddressed, can undermine confidence in healthy banks and threaten the ability of the banking system as a whole to play its vital role in supporting the savings and credit needs of households and businesses. That is why, in response to these events, the Federal Reserve, working with the Treasury Department and the FDIC, took decisive actions to protect the U.S. economy and to strengthen public confidence in our banking system.
That's what that means.
These actions demonstrate that all depositors' savings and the banking system are safe. With the support of the Treasury, the Federal Reserve Board created the Bank Term Funding Program to ensure that banks that hold safe and liquid assets can, if needed, borrow reserves against those assets at par.
At par.
This program, along with our long-standing discount window, is effectively meeting the unusual funding needs that some banks have faced and makes clear that ample liquidity in the system is available. Our banking system is sound and resilient with strong capital and liquidity. We will continue to closely monitor conditions in the banking system and are prepared to use all of our tools as needed to keep it safe and sound. In addition, we are committed to learning the lessons from this episode and to work to prevent events like this from happening again.
See, life lessons.
Turning to the broader economy
No
and
failures,
monetary
only
policy.
lessons.
Inflation remains too high, and the labor market continues to be very tight. My colleagues and I understand the hardship that high inflation is causing, and we remain strongly committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal. Price stability is the responsibility of the Federal Reserve. Without price stability, the economy does not work for anyone. In particular, without price stability, we will not achieve a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. The U.S. economy slowed significantly last year, with real GDP rising at a below-trend pace of 0.9%.
By slowed, he means recession.
Consumer spending appears to have picked up this quarter, although some of that strength may reflect the effects of swings in the weather across the turn of the year. In contrast, activity in the housing sector remains weak, largely reflecting higher mortgage rates. Higher interest rates and slower output growth also appear to be weighing on business fixed investment. Committee participants generally expect subdued growth to continue. As shown in our summary of economic projections, the median projection for real GDP growth stands at just 0.4% this year and 1.2% next year, well below the median estimate of the longer-run normal growth rate. And nearly all participants see the risks to GDP growth as weighted to the downside. Yet the labor market remains extremely tight. Job gains have picked up in recent months, with employment rising by an average of 351,000 jobs per month over the last 3 months. The unemployment rate remained low in February at 3.6%. The labor force participation rate has edged up in recent months, and wage growth has shown some signs of easing. However, with job vacancies still very high, labor demand substantially exceeds the supply of available workers. FOMC participants expect supply and demand conditions in the labor market to come into better balance over time, easing upward pressures on wages and prices. The median unemployment rate projection in the SEP rises to 4.5% at the end of this year and 4.6% at the end of next year. Inflation remains well above our longer-run goal of 2%. Over the 12 months ending in January, total PCE prices rose 5.4%, excluding the volatile food and energy categories. Excluding those, core PCE prices rose 4.7%. In February, the 12-month change in the CPI came in at 6%, and the change in the core CPI was 5.5%.
That's because he does.
Inflation has moderated somewhat since the middle of last year, but the strength of these recent readings indicates that inflation pressures continue to run high. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation is 3.3% for this year, 2.5% next year, and 2.1% in 2025. The process of getting inflation back down to 2% has a long way to go and is likely to be bumpy.
Going to be bumpy. That means recession.
Despite elevated inflation, longer-term inflation expectations appear to remain well anchored, as reflected in a broad range of surveys of households, businesses, and forecasters, as well as measures from financial markets. The Fed's monetary policy actions are guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. My colleagues and I are acutely aware that high inflation imposes significant hardship as it erodes purchasing power, especially for those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation. We are highly attentive to the risks that high inflation poses to both sides of our mandate.
That's right.
And we are
XRP
strongly
standard.
committed to returning inflation to our 2% objective.
Been in a recession.
At today's meeting, the committee raised the target range for the federal funds rate by a quarter percentage point, bringing the target range to
Thank you
4
for the
3/4
roses.
to 5%. And we are continuing the process of significantly reducing our securities holdings. Since our previous FOMC meeting, economic indicators have generally come in stronger than expected, demonstrating greater momentum in economic activity and inflation. We believe, however, that events in the banking system over the past 2 weeks are likely to result in tighter credit conditions for households and businesses, which would in turn affect economic outcomes. It is too soon to determine the extent of these effects, and therefore too soon to tell how monetary policy should respond. As a result, we no longer state that we anticipate that ongoing rate increases will be appropriate to quell inflation.
Boom.
Instead, we now anticipate that some additional policy firming may be appropriate. We will closely monitor incoming data and carefully assess the actual and expected effects of tighter credit conditions on economic activity, the labor market, and inflation. And our policy decisions will reflect that assessment. In our SEP, each FOMC participant wrote down an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what that participant judges to be the most likely scenario going forward. If the economy evolves as projected, the median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 5.1% at the end of this year, 4.3% at the end of 2024, and 3.1% at the end of 2025. These are little changed from our December projections, reflecting offsetting factors. These projections are not a committee decision or plan. If the economy does not evolve as projected, the path for policy will adjust as appropriate to foster our maximum employment and price stability goals. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting based on the totality of the incoming data and their implications for the outlook for economic activity and inflation. We remain committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal and to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Reducing inflation is likely to require a period of below-trend growth and some softening in labor market conditions. Restoring price stability is essential to set the stage for achieving maximum employment and stable prices over the longer run. To conclude, we understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Do you, though? Do you really?
Thank you. Colby Smith with the Financial Times. How confident is the committee that the recent stress that we've seen and you've alluded to is contained at this point, and that deposit flight among mid-sized lenders in particular?
Jerome Powell right now.
You shut up! You shut up! I'm so fucking scared right now, you shut up!
Thanks. So I guess our view is that the banking system is sound and it's resilient. It's got strong capital and liquidity. We took powerful actions with Treasury and the FDIC, which demonstrate that all depositors' savings are safe and that the banking system is safe. Deposit flows in the banking system have stabilized over the last week. And the last thing I'll say is that we're undertaking a thorough internal review that will identify where we can strengthen supervision
25
and
basis
regulation.
points, that's right.
Okay, just a quick follow-up. I mean, given all of the stress and the uncertainty that you've also alluded to in the statement, how seriously was a pause considered for this meeting?
So we did consider that in the days running up to the meeting.
25 basis
and you
points.
see the decision that we made, which I'll say a couple things about.
voice
First,
doesn't
it was
match his
supported by
own.
a very strong consensus, and I'll be happy to explain why. And really it is that the intermeeting data
25
on
basis
inflation
points.
and the labor market came in stronger than expected, and really before the recent events, we were clearly on track to continue with ongoing rate hikes. In fact, as of a couple of weeks ago, it looked like we'd need to raise rates over the course of the year, more than we'd expected at the time of the SCP in December, the time of the December meeting. We are committed to restoring price stability, and all of the evidence says that the public has confidence that we will do so, that we'll bring inflation down to 2% over time. It is
Dropping.
important that we sustain that confidence with our actions as well as our words. So we also assess, as I mentioned, that the events of the last 2 weeks are likely to result in some tightening of credit conditions for households and businesses, and
Don't
thereby
worry,
weigh on
Oliver, we still
demand, on the
could.
labor market, and on inflation. Such a tightening in financial conditions would work in the same direction as rate tightening. In principle, as a matter of fact, you can think of it as being the equivalent of a rate hike, or perhaps more than that. Of course, it's not possible to make that assessment today with any precision whatsoever. So our decision was to move ahead with a 25 basis point hike
just print
and
more,
to
it'll
change
fix
our
it.
guidance, as I mentioned, from ongoing hikes to some additional hikes some policy firming may be appropriate. So
That means
going
pausing.
forward, as I mentioned, in assessing the need for further hikes, we'll be focused, as always, on the incoming data and the evolving outlook, and in particular on our assessment of the actual and expected effects of credit tightening.
That's right,
Mr. Chairman,
Tora.
Can you explain the difference between ongoing rate increases and firming? Does firming imply a rate increase per se, or could policy firm without you increasing rates?
No, I think it's meant to refer to our policy rate. Really, I would focus on the words may and some, as opposed to ongoing.
Pausing is
So
what it
we
means.
clearly what we were doing there was taking on board the
means zero.
trying to reflect the uncertainty about what will happen.
we went to
Possible
zero!
that this will turn out to have very modest effects. These events will turn out to be very, very modest effects on the economy, in which case
Yeah,
inflation
modest.
will continue to be strong, in which case the path will might look different. It's also possible that this potential tightening will contribute significant tightening in credit conditions over time, and in principle, if that means that monetary policy may have less work to do. We simply don't know. So
Just
You're
spit
concerned
it
that
out,
the recent-
Sammy.
The hike you did today could further exacerbate the problem in the banks?
no, I mean with our monetary policy, we're really focused on macroeconomic outcomes. In particular, we're focused on this potential credit tightening and what can that produce in the way of tighter credit conditions. I think when we think about the situation of the banks, we're focused on our financial stability tools, in particular our lending facilities, the discount window, and also the new facility.
Nick Timmeros of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, in your testimony 2 weeks ago, you had indicated you thought the terminal rate would be higher. Obviously, that was before the stress in the banking sector. And I realize there's a lot of uncertainty, but can you explain at all to what
the full thing will
extent
be on YouTube later.
Your forecasts or those of your colleagues or those of the board staff incorporated today a material tightening of credit availability because of the stress in the banking sector, or are you waiting to see it in the data before you incorporate that potential tightening into your forecasts?
Show me the charts. I'll tell you
we've
the
just
news.
come from an FOMC meeting, and the people who write the minutes will be very carefully counting. But I'll tell you what I heard. What I heard was a significant number of people saying that they anticipated there would be some tightening of credit conditions, and that would really have the same effects as our policies do. And that therefore they were including that in their assessment.
Back up.
And that if that turned out not to be the case, that in principle you'd need more rate hikes. So some people did reflect that in their SEP forecasts. I think there may also just have been, remember, this is 12 days ago. We're trying to assess something that just is so recent, and it's people. It's very difficult. There's so much uncertainty. So December was a good place to start, and we wound up with very similar outcomes for December.
We're a long way away from 15K, my friend.
In a way, the data in the first part, the first 5 weeks of the intermeeting period, pointed to stronger inflation and stronger labor market. So that pointed to higher rates, and then this latter part, kind of the possibility of credit conditions tightening, really offset that effectively.
To follow up, have you considered at all whether your primary tool, the funds rate, is going to be enough to sustain the kind of tighter financial conditions that you believe will be necessary without doing significant damage to the banking sector? Have you, for example, considered changing reserve requirements, selling assets out of the system, open market account, as a way to better achieve tighter financial conditions that don't accelerate deposit erosion, for example, from banks?
No.
We know that we have other tools in effect, but no, we think our monetary policy tool works, and we think many banks, our rate hikes were well telegraphed to the market, and many banks have managed to handle them.
Have they? Have they now?
Hi, Victoria Guida with Politico. I wanted to ask, you, along with the FDIC and the Treasury, the Fed Board decided to invoke the systemic risk exception to allow uninsured depositors to be protected at these two banks. And I was just wondering if you could speak to why that decision was made. Was it purely a confidence issue, or was there a concern that there would be some sort of economic contagion or financial contagion from the failing
They've had
of these
as
banks?
much money lost by the banks
The
since
issue was
2008
really
already,
not about
by the
those
way,
specific
guys.
banks, but about the risk of a contagion to other banks and to the financial markets more broadly. That was the issue.
Okay, and then can you also, just to follow up, can you speak to the role that you will be playing in the Fed's internal investigation on its supervision and regulation?
So Vice Chair Barr is of course leading that review, and he's responsible for it in his capacity as Vice Chair for Supervision. I realized right away that there was going to be a need for a review. I mean, the question we were all asking ourselves over that first weekend was, how did this happen? And what we did was
it's a Ponzi
early
scheme.
Monday
That's how it
morning we
happened.
sat down and said, let's do this, and he was obviously going to lead it in his capacity. So I don't, my role was to announce it, and I get briefed on it, but I'm not involved in the work of it.
Hi, Chair Powell. Howard Schneider from Reuters. So I want to go back to your February press conference. You mentioned the word disinflation, I believe, 9 or 10 times, a process that you felt was...
with Wendy's, I'm Gucci.
I forget the word you used, but gratefully underway or something like that. Is disinflation still occurring in the U.S. today?
Yes, I mean, what actually happened, Howard, was I got the question 12 times. So maybe it's a feature, not a bug. But yeah, absolutely the same. The story is intact. So it's really three parts, right? Goods inflation's been coming down now for 6 months, It's proceeding more slowly than we would have liked, but it's certainly proceeding. Housing services is really a matter of time passing. We continue to see the new leases being signed at much lower levels of inflation. So that's 44% of the core PCE index, where you've got a story that's ongoing.
Nah,
Where
you
we
owe
didn't have in February, and
16,000
we
to
still
Ukraine
don't
on your
have now,
taxes, bro.
is a sign of progress in the non-housing services sector, and that is, that's just something that will have to come through softening demand, and perhaps some softening in labor market conditions. We don't see that yet, and that's of course 56% of the index. So the story is pretty much the same. I will say that the inflation data that we got, to your point, really pointed to stronger inflation.
If I could follow up on that, I was curious why you don't see more coming from the credit crunch, because it seems to me that's something that you'd actually welcome to a degree and expect. And are you not seeing more coming from that because you don't know, or because you just don't want to have another round of wishful thinking?
So it's really just a question of not knowing at this point. There's a great deal of literature on the connection between conditions, economic activity, hiring, and inflation.
I'm so fucking scared right now. You shut up.
Literature. The question is, how significant will this credit tightening be, and how sustained will it be? That's the issue, and we don't really see it yet. It's so people are making estimates. People are publishing estimates, and it's very kind of rule of thumb guesswork almost at this point. But we think it's potentially quite real, and that argues for being alert as we go forward, as we think about further rate hikes. For us, we'll be paying attention to the actual and expected effects from that.
Gina. Hi, Chair Powell. Gina Smilik from the New York Times. Thank you for taking our question. I wonder if you could talk a little bit, I know that you've got your internal review coming, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what you think happened with oversight at Silicon Valley Bank, and whether this suggests that something about regulation and supervision needs to actually change going forward. And I wonder, how can the American people have confidence that there aren't other weaknesses out there in the banking system, given that this one got missed, as you noted?
So let me say what I think happened, and then I'll come to the questions around supervision. So at a basic level, Silicon Valley Bank management failed badly. They grew the bank very quickly. They exposed the bank to significant liquidity risk and interest rate risk, didn't hedge that risk. We now know that supervisors saw these risks and intervened.
Run it up,
we
chat.
Know that the public
spam that
saw
like
all
button.
this. We know that SVB experienced an unprecedentedly rapid and massive bank run. So this is a very large group of connected depositors, concentrated group of connected depositors, and a very, very fast run, faster than the historical record would suggest. So as for us, so
Someone
for our
explain
part,
this in
we're doing a
NFL
review
terms.
of supervision and regulation. My only interest is that we identify what went wrong here.
All right, so basically,
How did this
in
happen?
NFL
Is the
terms,
question.
I got
what
you,
went
bro.
wrong? Try to find that.
Basically,
We
what's
will
going
find
on?
that, and then make an assessment of what
they
are the
went
right
all in for the
policies to
Super
put
Bowl
in place so
run,
that it doesn't happen again. And then
spend all the
implement those
cap
policies.
space, and now
It
the
would
chicken
be
is coming to
inappropriate
crow.
for me at this stage
We don't have
to
cap room.
offer my views on what the answers might be. I simply can't do that. Vice Chair Barr is leading this, and I think he's testifying next week. So, but that will be up to him.
We have no money to
So
get new
that's
players,
really where it is.
and money is due.
The review is going to be thorough and transparent. It is clear to your last question. It's clear that we do
Thank you
need
for the
to
follow, you
strengthen
savage.
supervision and regulation.
The cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah.
There will be recommendations coming out of the report, and I plan on supporting them and supporting their
Foreign
implementation.
banks failing. We don't know how.
And the final point, can we feel
Crypto's gonna
confident that
pump.
these
Crypto's the
weaknesses
winner.
don't
This is a
exist
Ponzi
elsewhere,
scheme,
given
guys.
that
U.S.
they got
dollar's a
missed at
Ponzi
this
scheme.
bank?
It's done.
These are not weaknesses that are at all broadly through the banking system. This was a bank that was an outlier in terms of both its
Oh,
percentage
bullshit.
of
This is a Ponzi scheme.
of uninsured deposits, and in terms of its holdings of duration risk.
They had a choice: bail
And
out the
again,
banks or save
supervisors
the
did
U.S.
get in
dollar.
there, and
They can
they were,
only
as you know,
deflate or
obviously,
default. That is their
they
options.
They
Either
were
way,
on this issue, but nonetheless,
U.S. dollar's
this
going
still
to zero
happened.
eventually.
And so that's really the nature of the of the review, is to discover that.
we got Russell Wilson back there.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Radio and Television. You've been very consistent in saying that the Fed would be raising
no,
interest
we
rates
have
and
Brett
then holding them
Favre.
there for quite some time. Following today's decision, the markets have now priced in one more
Not
increase
prime Brett
in
Favre, the
May,
one
and
that's,
then
like,
every
stealing money
meeting the
from,
rest of this
poor
year, they're
people.
pricing in rate cuts. Are they getting this totally wrong from the Fed, or is there something different about the way you're looking at it, given that you're now thinking that moves might be appropriate as opposed to ongoing?
So we published an SEP today, as you will have seen, and it shows that basically participants expect relatively slow growth, a gradual rebalancing of supply and demand in the labor market, with inflation moving down gradually. In that most likely case, if that happens, participants don't see rate cuts this year. They just don't. I would just say, as always, the path of the economy is uncertain, and policy is going to reflect what actually happens rather than what we write down in the SEP. But that's not our baseline expectation.
Well, if I could follow up and ask, as you look forward into the rest of the year here, are you saying that what you see and the 5.1% basically consensus is based on it will be sufficiently restrictive, or is it leavened by the idea of you don't know what's going to happen? In other words, what should people think about in terms of how the Fed thinks about how far it is from the terminal?
It's going to depend. Remember, we're looking, for purposes of our monetary policy tool, we're looking at what's happening among the banks and asking, is there going to be some tightening in credit conditions? And then we're thinking about that as effectively doing the same thing that rate hikes do. So in a way, that substitutes for rate hikes. So the key is we have to have policies got to be tight enough to bring inflation down to 2% over time. It doesn't all have to come from rate hikes. It can come from tighter credit conditions. So that we're looking at, and it's highly uncertain how long the situation will be sustained or how significant any of those effects would be. So we're just going to have to watch. In the meantime,
I'm fed up.
And obviously, at the end of the day, we will do enough to bring inflation down to 2%. No one should doubt that.
Go to Rachel Siegel.
Hi, Chair Powell. Rachel Siegel from the Washington Post. Thank you for taking our questions. I know we've talked a bit about how Silicon Valley Bank was unique to a certain sector of the economy, but there's also growing concern that there are financial stability risks from the commercial real estate market and loans that will begin to roll over later this year and next, and that smaller regional banks also disproportionately hold those loans. Is there a risk that could mimic the kind of what we saw with SVB to banks that disproportionately are focused in commercial real estate?
So, we've well aware of the concentrations people have in commercial real estate. I really don't think it's
Right, like,
comparable to
have
this.
they said anything
The
that's
banking
true?
system is strong, it is sound, it is
strong. Yep,
resilient,
this-
it's well capitalized, and I really don't see that as at all analogous to this.
One other question, would you be open to an independent investigation separate from the Fed's probe?
I welcome that. It's 100% certainty that there will be independent investigations and outside investigations and all that. So we welcome, when a bank fails, there are investigations, and of course, we welcome that.
Thank you,
Someone
Mr.
get
Chairman.
Grandpa
Edward
the
Lawrence from
bills.
Fox Business. Inflation has been rather sticky, so do you need help from the fiscal side to get inflation down faster?
We don't assume that. We don't give advice to the fiscal authorities, and we assume that we take fiscal policy as it comes to our front door, stick it in our model along with a million other things.
Stick it up your ass.
We have responsibility for price stability. The Federal Reserve has responsibility for that, and nothing is going to change that. So we will get inflation down to 2% in time.
And if I can follow on that, but they're working, the spending that's happened is working against what you are doing, right? So it's prolonging inflation?
If you have to look at the impulse from spending, because spending was, of course, tremendously high during the pandemic, and then as the pandemic programs rolled off, spending actually came down. So the sort of fiscal impulse is actually not what's driving inflation right now. It was at the beginning, perhaps, part of what was driving inflation, but that's not really the story now.
Cap.
Let's go to Neil Irwin.
Hi, Chair Powell. Neil Irwin with Axios. Two questions about aspects of the government's response on Silicon Valley Bank 2 weekends ago. First, why is this new bank funding facility done under Emergency 13.3 authority as opposed to expansion of the discount window, changing the terms of the discount window that's been around a long time? And second, can you discuss the Fed's role in the FDIC guarantee of uninsured depositors and why there's $143 billion on your balance sheet last week supporting that deposit guarantee.
Sure. So 13.3 seemed like the right, but we have a little more flexibility under Section 13.3. We've done quite a lot under the discount window as well. We needed to do a special facility that was designed a certain way, so we did it under 13.3. Really no magic to that. It's only available in unusual and exigent circumstances, and it has to meet certain requirements, but it seemed to be the right place. So with the FDIC, we're lending to the, in effect, we're lending to the bridge bank. So that's where the funds came from, and it's a loan that's 100% guaranteed by the FDIC, so there's no risk in it for us.
Thank you, Chris Rugaber at Associated Press. The SEP suggests one more rate hike, as does the change in the language in the statement, and which suggests that you're perhaps nearing the end of a cycle of rate hikes. Do you feel, though, that if inflation remains high, you'll be able to resume additional hikes as needed, or have you somewhat tied your hands here with these signals about rate hikes coming to an end? Thank you.
No, absolutely not. No, if we need to raise rates higher,
his hands
we
are
will.
tied, his feet is tied, his neck is
for
tied,
now,
his
though,
hair is tied, his hat is tied.
As I've mentioned, we see the likelihood of credit tightening. We know that can have an effect on the macroeconomy, on demand,
27.
on labor market, on inflation, and we're going to be watching to see what that is. And we'll also be watching what's happening with inflation and in the labor market. So we'll be watching all those things, and of course we will eventually get to tight enough policy to bring inflation down to 2%. We'll find ourselves at that place.
Yeah, his tongue is tied.
Hi, Chair Powell. Thanks for taking the question.
His hands are tied, his feet are tied, his ankles are tied, his tongue is tied.
First of all, I'm curious, at what point the financial supports that the Fed is extending through the discount window and through its enhanced lending facility might be at odds with the objective of reducing the balance sheet. And I'm also curious what your thoughts are on not just the availability of reserves, but the distribution of them throughout the banking system, and at what point you might be concerned about it being scarce for certain banks.
So,
it went to zero!
So people think of QE and QT in different ways, so let me be clear about how I'm thinking about these recent developments. So the recent liquidity provision that has increased the size of our balance sheet, but the intent and the effects of it are very different from when we expand our balance sheet through purchases of longer-term securities. Large-scale purchases of long-term securities are really meant to alter the stance of policy by pushing up the price and down the rates, longer-term rates, which supports demand through channels we understand fairly well. The balance sheet expansion is really temporary lending to banks to meet those special liquidity demands created by the recent tensions. It's not intended to directly alter the stance of monetary policy. We do believe that it's working. It's having its intended effect of bolstering confidence in the banking system and thereby forestalling what might otherwise have been
You guys feel confident in the banking system?
Tightening in financial conditions. So that's working. In terms of the distribution of reserves, we don't see ourselves as running into reserve shortages. We think that our program of allowing our balance sheet to run off predictably and passively is working. And of course, we're always prepared to change that if that changes, but we don't see any evidence that that's changed.
Hi, Chair. Katerina Saraiva with Bloomberg News. The minutes of the January-February meeting, the last meeting, indicate that you discussed the possibility of runs on non-bank financial institutions and the impact of large unrealized losses on bank portfolios. Can you talk a little bit more about that discussion, kind of what was talked about in light of that, and then why didn't the Fed, do anything about that at that point to ultimately prevent, what happened this month?
I mean, to be honest, I don't recall the specifics of that. It's quite an interesting 7 weeks, but
she sounds.
But I will tell you though that there have been presentations about interest rate risk. I mean, it's been in all the newspapers. It's not a surprise that there are institutions that have had unhedged long positions in long duration securities that have lost value as longer term rates have gone up. due to our rate increases. So that's not a surprise. I think, as you know, as is now on the public record, the supervisory team
27-6.
was apparently engaged, very much engaged with the bank repeatedly, and was escalating, but nonetheless what happened happened. And so that's really the purpose of one way to think about the review that Vice Chair Barr is conducting, is to try to understand how that happened and try to understand how we can do better and what policies we need to change. I mean, one thing is the speed of I'll come back to that, the speed of the run. It's very different from what we've seen in the past, and it does kind of suggest that there's a need for possible regulatory and supervisory changes, just because supervision and regulation need to keep up with what's happening in the world.
Can you confirm whether or not the board knew about these escalations by the examiners in San Francisco?
I will have to come back to you on that. Yeah, I don't know.
Simon Urbanovich with The Economist. Thank you very much. Chair Powell, you've stated twice today that all depositors' savings in the banking system are safe. Are you saying that de facto deposit insurance covers all savings? Shouldn't Congress have a say in that? And just by way of example, if a bank with less than $1 billion in assets failed, are you promising to bail out all of its depositors? Thanks.
Well, I'm not saying anything more than I'm saying. So, but what I'm saying is you've seen that we have the tools to protect depositors when there's a threat of serious harm to the economy or to the financial system, and we're prepared to use those tools. And I think depositors should assume that their deposits are safe.
You know what they say about assuming? Make an ass out of you and me.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Greg Robb from Market Watch. I was wondering if you could give us a little bit more color. You gave just a little bit of color. You said during the first week of the Silicon Valley weekend, you said the question you guys asked was, how did this happen when you saw Silicon Valley Bank? So I was wondering if you could go to the Credit Suisse merger. I mean, wasn't that the big gorilla in the room? Didn't you breathe a sigh of relief when that merger happened? Thanks.
Sure. So, that was really the Swiss government. We, of course, were following it over the course of the weekend, and we were engaged with their authorities in the way that you would expect, all the ways that you would expect. It seems to have been a positive outcome in the sense that the transaction was agreed to, and it has been, the markets have accepted it, and it seems to have gone well, and I think there was a concern that it might not go well. So coming into the middle of this week, yes, I would say that has gone well so far.
Nicole.
Hi, thank you, Chair Powell. Nicole Goodkind with CNN Business. In the summary of economic projections, the FOMC sees the unemployment rate increasing to 4.5% this year. I'm wondering how you anticipate preventing this from snowballing while using the admittedly blunt tools at your disposal.
So that's an estimate of what will happen as demand slows and as conditions soften in the labor market. And it's a highly uncertain estimate. And I mean, we have to bring inflation down to 2%. The costs of bringing it down, there are real costs to bring it down to 2%, but the costs of failing are much higher. And if you read your history, as I'm sure you have, you can see that if the central bank doesn't get inflation back in place, make sure that inflation expectations remain anchored.
That's probably
you can
right.
have a long series of years where inflation is high and volatile.
The day hasn't even closed either.
It's hard to invest capital. It's hard for an economy to
That's
perform
why I say
well,
don't trade the Fed.
and
Like this could be.
we're looking to avoid that, and
We could come all
to
the way
get
down
back
here
to where we
and
need to be, back
reverse
to
all
where
the
we
way
were
back
for a
out
quarter of a
here
century,
and just
and
wreck
get there as quickly as we
both
can.
the bulls and the bears. Like this day has not closed. People get wrecked. Usually,
Historically,
both
it's been
sides.
hard to contain unemployment, and the question is, do you worry about some sort of snowball effect, and how do you factor that into your projections and your thoughts?
It depends on whether so recessions tend to be nonlinear, and so they're very hard to model. The models all work in a kind of linear way. If you have more of this, you get more of that. But when a recession happens, the reactions tend to be nonlinear, and that's so we don't know whether that'll happen this time. We don't know. If so, we don't know how significant it will be. And so, we're very focused on getting inflation down, and because we know in the longer run that that is the thing that will most benefit the people we serve. That's how we can have a long, we've had very strong labor markets through these long expansions that we've had. 4 of the 5 longest, or 3 of the 4 longest expansions in U.S. history have been really since the high inflation period. And the reason was inflation wasn't forcing the central bank to come in and stop an incipient or an expansion. You can have very, very long expansions without high inflation, and we had several of those, and they're very good for people. You see late in an expansion, you see low unemployment, you see the benefits of wages going to people at the lower end of the wage spectrum. It's just a place that we should try to get back to.
Hi, Chair Powell. Jean Young with Market News. I just wanted to ask, with all the events of the past 2 weeks, do you still see a possibility of a soft landing for the U.S. economy?
Hell no.
It's too early to say really whether these events have had much of an effect. It's hard for me to see how they would have helped the possibility, but I guess I would just say it's too early
like
to say
another
whether
hour
there really have been
till he's done talking.
Changes in that. The question will be how long this period is sustained. The longer it's sustained, then the greater will be the likely declines in or tightening in credit standards, credit availability. So we'll just have to see. I do still think, though, that there's a pathway to that. I think that pathway still exists, and we're certainly trying to find it.
My man's Dr. Strange. I did 1 million simulations, and there's one
Hi,
pathway.
Chair Powell. Nancy Marshall-Genzer with Marketplace. Just wondering how many financial institutions have been issued matters requiring attention or matters requiring immediate attention citations at this point?
How many? I don't know.
All of
But
them.
those are serious. Those are serious regulatory, particularly immediate attention. That's and I guess there were 6 of them. So.
And getting to the seriousness of it, how are you going to ensure that banks comply with these citations, take them seriously? How will you enforce them?
That is a great question and is right in the heart of what the review will be doing under Vice Chair Barr's leadership. So I think that's what you think about. What can we do to make sure? But again, that's not for me to answer
So
today.
you have specific thoughts on that?
Well, I see. If I did, I wouldn't share them because I really,
My
this
job
review's
is
going
to
on.
wrong
And,
foot
I
regular
want
people, so I
I
can't
want
share
nothing
them.
other than us to find out what happened and why, figure out what we can do to do better, and then implement those changes. That's all I want. It's for me to be giving you my half-formed or partially informed thoughts. It just isn't appropriate. There's a real serious review going on with people from all over the Federal Reserve System who are not connected to this, to this work, not connected to this bank, and under again Vice Chair Barr's leadership, and I'm confident that it will produce a satisfactory result.
Okay, we'll go to Jennifer for the last question.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Jennifer Schonberger with Yahoo Finance. Curious, how do you view financial conditions right now? If credit becomes expensive enough, choking off growth, as you said you're watching for, would that situation warrant a rate cut? What situation would warrant a rate cut? And have the bank failures prompted any discussion around changing the implementation of the balance sheet runoff? Thank you.
So we haven't really talked about changing the balance sheet implementation. That's not something we've discussed yet. As I mentioned, we're always willing to change that if we conclude that it's appropriate, but we're really not seeing any signs there. Sorry, then the question before that was, just give me a...
Curious how you view financial conditions now, and if
Yeah,
credit were
okay.
to tighten enough, if that would prompt a rate cut.
So, financial conditions seem to have tightened, and probably by more than the traditional indexes say, because the traditional indexes are focused a lot on rates and equities, and they don't necessarily capture lending conditions. So we think that, though. So there are other measures which if they're focused on, bank lending conditions and things like that, they show some more tightening. The question for us, though, is how significant will that be, and how, what will be the extent of it, and what will be the duration of it? And then, once you know that, there's a fair amount of research about how that with broad uncertainty bands, how that works its way into the economy over what period of time. And so, so we'll be looking to see the first part of that, like how serious is this, and how does it look like it's going to be sustained? And if it is, it could easily have a significant macroeconomic effect, and we would factor that into our policy decisions. I mentioned with rate cuts, rate cuts are not in our base case, and so that's all I have to say. So, thank you very much.
All right. Well, let's get some music going back again. We'll answer you guys' questions. Dee, thank you for the follow. All right, so check it out. I was looking at the charts while he was spewing out his nonsense. So on the daily, this is still a green day. Okay? This is still a green day on the daily. Now, we are below on the body, the 236. The day has not closed yet. So, for a continuation, this looks like it's losing a little bit of steam. For a continuation, you would like to see a body close on top of this red line right here. Now, on the 5 hour, just showing major volatility. Now, if we get rejected at this level where we're at right now, we're going to come back down here to this huge range right here at 25,300, in my opinion. It would look something like this. Rejection here, can't quite make it through, come back down, body test, before then going off and away. We coming down. I mean, kind of. Like, it's still a green day, bro. On the daily, like, it's literally, it's still a green day. As of the 22nd, is that when it is? Yeah, as of March 22nd, it is still a green day. It's just to be expected. These are volatile days. Volatile, volatile, volatile. I do not recommend trading these days. And we could even, like, pump into the close. Like, I've seen... So what's going to happen, probably, like, if I were to guess... This is going to continue. Bears are going to be like, aha, see? They're going to short it. They're going to get wrecked to the upside as we close. And then we could either continue down to 25.3 and then come back up. Whatever is the most painful. Tomorrow will be volatile as well, yeah. It's going to settle down probably Friday. So we'll see. We'll see how this day closes. It's going to be a big one. I'm probably going to be live later on tonight. See how this day actually closed. Because right now we're still green on the day. I'm not saying that we need to, yay, but I'm saying it's possible for us to test at 25,300. Times to close, I think it's at 4. Yeah, I'll be giving predictions tonight. I'm gonna study the charts a little bit. But where I'm leaning right now, I mean, it's still a green day, so we need to see how this is going to close today. It's going to be volatile tomorrow. Ultimately, before May, I still believe that this is the move. It wouldn't be weird to get rejected at the 236 here, come back, and then go. Like, that wouldn't be weird. Volatility. Volatility, volatility. So we rose into the Fed, and now we're dumping. But we're actually on the day. It's still green on the day. I can guarantee you lots of people got wrecked just now. Alright guys, I'm going to be on later tonight. I'll be doing all your, I'll be doing some more TA, crypto price predictions, all that. Make sure you follow me on YouTube, @YourBoySki. Follow me on Instagram, @YourBoySki. Twitter is @Gayeski. So make sure you follow me on those places. I'll be back on here later tonight. I'm going to study these charts, do some TA, and I'll bring you guys the most entertaining, electrifying man in crypto. I will put an alert out on TikTok, or on YouTube, I mean, rather, about at least an hour before I go live. So, alright guys, I will see you guys later. Peace, love, prosperity, God first.